Hello and welcome. This is Charles Folkart on March the 18th, 2017. I want to welcome all of those of you who are subscribers already, and anyone new, I would encourage you to subscribe. We want to get to that 1,000 mark, 1,000 subscribers. That gives us a lot more, many more options. When we get to that point, there's a lot more we can do with this channel. And I encourage you to make comments. People learn from the comments. There's interaction there. And YouTube has made the comment system much more difficult now. It's not near as good as it used to be. I do not receive the email notifications like I used to for comments or new subscribers, or even new videos that the channels that I subscribe to. When they put up a new video, I no longer get the email notification. I have to go looking for them. So I would encourage you to come back to this channel often if you learn while you're here. If the content here is educational for you and you get a benefit from it, I would appreciate your subscribing and your support. It takes a lot of time and effort to put out these videos, as you may know. And freedom is not free, and truth comes at a cost. So, that out of the way, I want to talk about the lost tribes of the Israelites are the Caucasian race. The Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon, Scandinavian, Germanic, Celtic, and related peoples are the Israelites of the Old and New Testaments. And there's white nationalist leaders out there who absolutely refuse to acknowledge this fact. They do so for their own reasons and not because it's not the truth. And a lot of these white nationalist leaders are concerned about the truth, but they're not concerned about all the truth. And I'm going to bring up one example here in this video, and I've talked about this man in previous videos, but this man simply refuses to accept the truth of Scripture, and he refuses to acknowledge the truth. And there's no more important truth, I believe, in the world today, and there's no bigger lie in the world today. And everyone's concerned about the truth and fake news and reality and illusion, and we've been lied to in the past, and everything we've learned about history, even to the extent of the world that we live on, we've been lied to. Now, a lot of these white nationalist leaders will agree that that's a fact. But when it comes to the Scripture, let me back up a moment. They'll even tell you that we've been lied to by the chosen ones. They will tell you that these criminals, these cretins, these serpent seed line individuals have lied to us about just about everything. They've lied to us about World War II. They've lied to us about the alleged Holocaust. They've lied to us about 9/11. They've lied to us about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They're lying to us about Israel. They lie, they lie, they lie, they lie. The white nationalist leaders, they admit that. This group of people lie to us about everything, except they're not lying to us about the Bible. These men still believe that Jesus was a Jew and that the Israelites in Scripture were Jewish. And those are the two biggest lies in all of history, in my opinion. Jesus was not a Jew, and the Israelites in the Old and the New Testament were not Jewish. And I bring you here to this video. The lost tribes of the Israelites were the Greeks and were not Jews. And I take the study out of this pamphlet. There's a series of pamphlets. There's 4 in the series, and it's by a man named Daniel R. Walsh, and it's been copyrighted since 1995. That's over 20 years. And many other people have brought to the attention of this man that I'm going to bring up here in a minute, over and over and over again, that he's in error. And this man just absolutely refuses to bend the knee to the truth and to the greatest white nationalists in history. Jesus Christ is the greatest white nationalist in all of history. And why these leaders of the white nationalist movement can't acknowledge that fact tells you something about their character. At least it tells me something about their character. And these men purport or want you to believe that they're concerned about the truth, and they get miffed when the Jew tries to censor them because they're telling the truth. So let's go have a look at who I'm speaking of. So here we are at the Daily Stormer again. I brought us here before, and here we have a radio program on this website. You can listen to it. I don't listen to Mr. Duke anymore. He turned me off quite a while ago. Mr. Duke and Mr. Stryker go on about Zionist organizations trying to ban and censor Duke's videos. And David Duke says, truth is like kryptonite to the Jews, so they suppress it everywhere they can. And I would suggest that the truth is also like kryptonite to David Duke. He doesn't want to go anywhere near the truth of Scripture. He ignores it. It's not a topic. And when he does bring up Scripture, it's always in the context that Scripture is a Jewish book, that the Jews are the Israelites of Scripture, and that Jesus was a Jew, and therefore that's his excuse. There's no other word for it. I was going to use that's his reason, but it's not a reason. It's an excuse not to bend the knee to the greatest white nationalist leader in all of history, and the leader, the creator, the originator of the Caucasian race that Duke purports to defend and to stand up for. And he attacks the Jew, and he goes on about how truth is like the kryptonite to the Jews, when I would suggest that the truth is actually kryptonite to David Duke. So I'm going to just bring up one scripture. There's many scriptures that we could go through the Scripture Bible from front to back. from Genesis to Revelation that talk about Jesus Christ being the kinsman redeemer, the kinsman redeemer of the Caucasian race. The Caucasian white race descends from Jacob, Israel. The Jews don't descend from Jacob, Israel, Mr. Duke. The Jews descend from Cain and Esau. The first Jew was Cain. And Cain, offspring of Cain, mixed. And the rest of the Jews, Cain race mixed, and the rest of the Jews descend from Esau. Cain, Esau, Edom. You get that, David Duke? Not from Jacob, Israel. Jacob, Israel, his offspring, his 12 sons, are the 12 tribes of Israel, and they weren't Jewish. They are the Europeans that you so much like to talk about. They migrated out of Egypt before the Exodus and during the Exodus. They became the Greeks and the Romans and the British and other people in the Mediterranean. Now, you don't want to bend the knee to that truth, because that allows you to continue on in your sin. It allows you to continue doing what it is you want to do. You know, I think about getting a dog, but there's such a hassle. It's an added expense, and I like to travel quite a bit, and I like to go do things, and you got to take care of a dog. It's like having a child in many respects. But some of the dogs that I've thought about having have been a German Shepherd. I think if I was to get a dog, they got the problem with the hips, but very intelligent dog. It's of the German, the tribe of Judah. The other dog I thought about is the brown Labradors. Now that I refresh my memory, it's the chocolate lab. And one thing I know that absolutely, positively, 100% sure is that any dog that I ever get is not going to be able to fit in a handbag that I carry around on my hip. A lot of people have told me that the brown, I think it's the Labrador, is a very good dog to have. You know, one of the characteristics I would have in a dog is that he doesn't bark. I like the German Shepherd because they're quiet, they're intelligent, they're smart, they're easily trained, and they're protectors. And the brown lab is not a barking dog as far as I understand, and so those were the two dog choices that I would choose if I was going to get a dog as a companion. And I want to bring to your attention this book by Charles Murray. It's Human Accomplishment. And Charles, I like his writing. He's very factual, very prolific in supplying evidence. And I looked for the quote by Joseph Soburn. He asked Charles Murray after the book was written, and Charles Murray came to the conclusion after this book was written. It took him several years to put this book together. And 97% of all significant human accomplishment has been achieved by the white race, the Caucasian race. And he goes back until the 800s, I believe, maybe 800 BC, all the way up to, I think, 1950 in his study. And Joseph Sobran asked him, did you think that Christianity would have such an impact on human accomplishment before you wrote your book? And if I remember the quote right, and I can't find it, I looked in Google, and they try to hide this kind of information, folks. They don't want you to see this. But Charles Murray, not a Christian by any means, probably a nice guy, not, you know, a moral man, as far as I know, no problem there, guy. Hey, but he said, nope, I didn't realize how much of an impact Christianity, Scripture, had on human accomplishment. And the white race is the race of Christianity. The Christianity, Israelite identity, I like to refer to as Israelite identity, is not for all the races. You get that, David Duke? Jesus Christ plainly stated that he was not sent except or but unto the lost sheep, or the dispersed Israelites of the house of Jacob Israel. And again, those are the Caucasian race, Anglo-Saxon, Western Europeans, the Scandinavians, the Finns, the Danes, the Belgium, the French is probably the tribe of Reuben. It just goes on, and that statement can be supported through history, from historical record. This is only a very small portion of what you could read about Mr. Duke. Charles Murray very handily provides the evidence that shows that Christianity was the motivating force, the driving force for the majority, the vast majority, 97% of human accomplishment and human achievement. And I would suggest that this truth is like kryptonite to you, to Mr. Duke. He won't go anywhere near this truth of Scripture, that Jesus was not a Jew and the Israelites were not Jewish. He's got his reasons, but for the rest of you that watch this video and hear about this truth from Scripture, David Duke is only going to bring you so far up the field of truth. He's going to bring you to the 30-yard line, 20-yard line, but he's not going to get you over the goal line. And if you don't score, you can't win. Jesus Christ is the most important and the greatest, the number one white nationalist leader in history. And despite what these white nationalists, non-Israelite identity leaders want you to believe. See, this Odin god that the white nationalists, not all of them, but many of them, they all talk about, Odin is my God, and Odin is a man. And they got this Jew lie. They believe this Jew lie that Jesus Christ was a wussy. I want to use the other word that starts with a P, but they all think, because they believe the Jew lie, that Jesus Christ was a barefooted Jewish carpenter that said, love your enemies and turn the other cheek 1,000 times and let people walk all over you. I got news for you. That's not the Yeshua Christ that I see in Scripture. Jesus Christ was the greatest man, but he was humble, and he had a job to do, and he did his job, and he allowed the Jew to do what they did, but that was the first time around. The second time around, Jesus Christ is going to come back as Yeshua, and he's going to kick Jew ass. You get that, David Duke, and all the rest of you white nationalists that go after this myth God of yours? And the funny thing is, Odin was probably an Israelite who became a hero of the Israelites when they departed from the living God. I'm not going to go into that right now, but there's a lot of factual evidence to support that view. One more time, Jesus Christ was not a wussy. He was not a Jewish carpenter who walked around barefoot telling everybody to let others walk all over him. Odin, the pagan Odin. And the reason they like Odin is because with Odin, you can continue on in your sin. You don't have to bend the knee to Jesus Christ, to Yeshua. You don't have to acknowledge the God of Scripture, the non-Jewish God, the non-Jewish Yeshua the Christ of Scripture. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for embracing the love of the truth. And may the God, our Father, Yahweh Yeshua, who is not a Jew, may his grace be upon us all, for we certainly need it. See you.